Hey everyone, and welcome to our weekly Q&A presented by Just Love. I'm your host Paula Jane, and I'm talking to Judy Carroll. Judy is an internationally known author. Her books include The Zeta Message, Human by Day, Zeta by Night, and her most recent book, Extraterrestrial Presence on Earth. Welcome, Judy.
Hi Paula, hi everyone.
Judy, I mentioned your book, The Zeta Message, in the intro like I always do, and I wanted to draw attention to this book because our discussion today is further highlighted in your book, The Zeta Message. In the Zeta Message, you talk about your experience at the Rollright Stones and highlight how this marked the beginning of your downloads for your books. You had downloads before. We discussed this in episode 5, where you spoke about being a blended soul and where you also describe your walk-in experience. But this experience at the Rollright Stones was the beginning of the information you received for your books. Is that correct?
Yes, the contact I had after visiting the Rollright Stones was for the purpose of addressing the problem of communication between the Greys and people taken up on the ships. People complain that the Greys refuse to communicate, but what they don't understand is how hard it is to communicate telepathically with a terrified human. I've experienced this personally up on the ship, trying to talk to somebody who was terrified of my appearance. During the download I received at the Stones, a suggestion was made that I write a book on ET Earth-human contact, but entirely from the ET's perspective, with plenty of descriptions and information included. This had never been done, so it was new territory we were entering. All books on the subject back then were either pure speculation from the researcher's point of view, or else clouded by misunderstanding and fear when written by contactees themselves who'd been taken up on our ships. So much information came through that one book became 2 books, which were first published here in Australia and then were taken up by Granite Publishing in the United States, who condensed them into one volume entitled Human by Day, Zeta by Night. I was really scared back then about coming out as a blended soul ET, so this book was presented in a semi-fictional format, which made it easier anyway to translate grey reality into Earth-human reality. Granite also published our non-fiction book, The Zeta Message.
Okay, Judy, can you tell us what happened at the Rollright Stones? Because it would appear that this all played out by accident. However, there are no accidents. It is all divinely planned. Everything, always, for everyone, not just you. Isn't that right, Judy?
Absolutely, for sure. It blows my mind each time I go back and read the Zeta Message. I can see how guided I've been all my life, but definitely, yes, everyone's life is divinely planned, whether it seems that way or not. Now, what happened with my visit to the Rollright Stones have to go back 8 years previous, when my meditation teacher predicted that I was going to make a trip overseas connected with my family roots, or connecting back to my family roots. About 8 years after that, in 1995, my brother contacted me to say we'd received an invitation to go over to the UK for a family reunion. And I remembered this prediction my teacher had made, so of course I made the decision to go. Now, we happened to have a cousin over there who had a connection with sacred sites, and she contacted us and said, what do you want to do while you're there? So, of course, I said I'd love to go to Stonehenge and Avebury. Mm-hmm. So she said, yes, of course we can go there, but the circle I'd really like you to take you to was the Rollright Stones, because it just happened that she had a connection with these stones through her husband, who is an archaeologist and who'd done work on this circle.
How interesting.
Yes, so we decided to meet up over there, and we packed up a picnic lunch, and she took us out to the Rollright Stones. And it just happened to be, I didn't realise at the time until I looked back on my trip diary, but it just happened to be the day of the summer solstice. And we spent some time there, and I had the opportunity to stand right in the very centre of the circle known as the King's Men. And again, just sheer coincidence, it happened to be at 12 noon on the day of the summer solstice.
Just like that.
Talk about strings being pulled. Now, what I'll do, I'll just go and quote from my book, The Zeta Message, here, because it wasn't until I got home that strange things started to happen.
Okay, that'd be great.
Okay, now, from the time I arrived home in Australia, awareness lingered that something extraordinary had happened. At first I put it down to jet lag, the strange inner sensation of shaking, and a greatly increased sensitivity to energies around me. But when it kept up over a period of time, the realisation dawned that something was going on at deeper spiritual levels. I found myself experiencing much deeper states of meditation and doing Tai Chi, which was wonderful, but the heightened state of sensitivity had a downside too, making certain aspects of my life, going among crowds in the supermarket, for example, very difficult. Then one night, about 3 weeks after arriving back in Australia, I had a most incredible experience. While in an altered state and in my astral body, I was taken by the old ones to a special place which turned out to be the Rollright Circle. I recognised it as soon as we arrived. My conscious recall the next morning was of being carried in an ancient horse-drawn cart with solid wooden wheels and taken by a group of small dark children. At first I thought they were gypsy children, but then I realised that no, they were adults, but with the fine delicacy of form and carefree, fun-loving way of children about them. It was as if the whole process was a light-hearted celebration of some sort. The next thing I recall was being taken from the cart and laid down on the ground in the very centre of the circle. Here I was held down firmly by many small but surprisingly strong hands, and then with great ceremony a long needle was plunged into my third eye chakra. This needle had a most gorgeous, large, light blue faceted crystal on the other end of it. I cried out and struggled, begging them to pull it out because of the intense pain. They withdrew the needle and my mind went blank. Next morning I awoke with clear recall of all that had occurred, but I put it down to a particularly realistic dream, until I examined my face in the mirror and found a small red mark in the shape of a crescent right on the point of my brow chakra.
Ouch.
I realise now that what the blue crystal contained, or what that was about, was a download of information about the Gray family that I needed to put into books.
Wow. So just a little bit about the Rollright stones. So the Rollright stones were constructed from local limestone, were built at different periods in late prehistory. There are 3 monuments known as the King's Men and the Whispering Knights in Oxfordshire and the King's Stone in Warwickshire. Known as sacred ground, there has been continuous traditions of ritual behaviour carried out at the monument since the 4th century. And you just happen to be there at noon in the middle of the King's Men on the 21st of June, which is the summer solstice. The summer solstice, simply put, is the longest day of the year, whereas the winter solstice is the shortest. What is the significance of being there at that particular time?
Well, my understanding is that many of these sacred circles are monuments to Bel, the sun god. So, of course, the summer solstice would be a very powerful energy portal at that time of year. I know that Avebury too in Wiltshire is a place where important rites were carried out to do with this solstice. The midday rite is dedicated to the land and to Puck, the fairy being featured in Shakespeare's A Midsummer Night's Dream. And Puck was referred to by Rudyard Kipling as the Old One, which is quite interesting because that's exactly what I used to refer to them as, and I'd never read Shakespeare. I'd never heard that. The Rollright stones were one of the major centres in the UK where the old religion of Wicca was practised. The King's Stone is situated on a famous fairy knoll overlooking the village of Longcompton, which was said to have more practitioners of the nature religion than anywhere else in Britain. There are many legends connected with the fairy folk and the Rollright stones, so there's a deep connection between the fairy folk and the Greys. The Greys are also known as gardeners of the earth, and they work closely with the elementals.
So for a long time it has been assumed that unknown energies exist at ancient sites. Can you expand on this?
Yes, all of these sites are located on chakra or energy points of the earth. Mm-hmm. The earth is a living sentient being with an energy body, just as we have an energy body underlying our physical body. The Earth's energy meridians are known as ley lines, and at places such as the Rollright stones and other such sacred sites, a number of ley lines would converge, making them places of very strong energy. Some years ago, ultrasound equipment was placed at the Rollright Circle known as the King's Men, and an inexplicable sort of pulsing sound was picked up. However, right at the very centre of the circle, where I just happened to be at midday on the day of the summer solstice, there was total silence. completely devoid of any of the normal white noise that is always picked up with sensitive recording equipment. These experiments are recorded in a book entitled Circles of Silence by Don Robbins, published in 1985 by Souvenir Press. The book's name, The Circles of Silence, is taken from this profound silence at the centre of the main circle.
Wow. So ancient people had an understanding of how to find such places based on the lie of the land and may have been attuned to subtle energies less commonly experienced in modern society. So regarding these energies that the ancient people may have been attuned to, can you liken this to anything that may assist in our understanding of how they did this?
Well, my feeling is that such understanding and sensitivity has been lost to most people living in modern and so-called civilised society.
Yeah.
We all have the potential within us, but the hustle and bustle of modern-day life, along with their education system, as well as other brainwashing that goes on here on Earth, has dumbed us down and blunted our deeper senses.
New claims about ley lines have started to emerge over the past few years, and these views see leys not so much as prehistoric trackways, but as spirit paths, dream tracks, or flight paths for the fairy folk. What do you make of that?
I entirely agree. These, I believe, are also the song lines that our Indigenous people, the Aboriginals of Australia, talk about.
Well, for a long time it has been assumed that unknown energies exist at ancient sites.
Oh, they sure do, and these are the same energies that sensitive people pick up on in genuine crop circles, which are created by the ETs working in cooperation with the nature spirits and Mother Earth herself.
Wow, so this is all so interesting and raises more questions. But for now, thank you so much, Judy. So just letting our listeners know that Judy's books are available through Amazon and Kindle, or you can go directly through Judy's website, which is included in the link below. And if you like this video, please share it with your friends and subscribe to this channel. We look forward to meeting up in our next Q&A session. Bye for now.